And we're live. So today we want to talk about nuclear proliferation. Obviously a topic that a lot of people think about on a pretty regular basis, dating back to the Cold War. And I think we might be in a second Cold War now. So pretty excited that we have one of my best friends as a guest today, who is an engineer, world traveler, incredibly smart man. But ladies and gentlemen, Blaine DeLuca.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Hi, my name is Stu Hawk, and this is my podcast about all the weird, crazy, spooky things that scare me and my guests, and the one thing that helps us forget all about them. Ladies and gentlemen, beer freaks. Dun dun dun.
Here I am. Thanks for having me, Stu. You stroked my ego a little too strong there, I think. So hopefully
Stroke a lot of things too strong.
Yeah, well, we know that. But so what are we doing? Are we starting with a beer, or get right into this, or what?
Well, so why don't we start with what you want to talk about today? Because the whole program that we have here is based around the things that we're afraid of, whether that's horror, sci-fi, real life news events.
I guess the reason I came upon this topic, so my first internship, I worked for a nuclear power plant consulting firm. Sounded like it was going to be cool, but basically I never did any work. So, and like every single page on the internet was blocked. And mind you, this was 2008. So not quite as much excitement on the internet. So basically I read everything Wikipedia had to offer about nuclear power or any derivative of nuclear fusion, fission, you name it. So it highlighted a couple of unnerving things. And now with some of the stuff in the news, particularly this week with Russia and their apparent doomsday missile that they had a mishap with today, I thought it might be a good one to talk about.
Always a good one to talk about, because who's not terrified of nuclear energy?
Yeah, it's like, we won't get into the backstory of Chernobyl, but if you can imagine just building a nuclear reactor like in your shed in the backyard, that's more or less what happened there. So you've got like other failures that happened like in Pennsylvania or Japan, and you had all these redundant backup systems that, you know, did their jobs. That didn't happen in Chernobyl because it was literally a reactor in a shed and something went wrong and that was a wrap.
Well, so you heard it here first, folks. Don't build a nuclear reactor in your backyard because it'll be Chernobyl. Okay, so the topic that we're going to talk about today is nuclear proliferation, and I think there's some news that Blaine's going to bring up. But before we get into that shit, we're going to tell you what we're drinking, because that's really the crucial part of having great conversations, in my opinion, is the ability to crack a beer or wine if you're into that. Yeah, that's fine. That's not what this show is about. This show is about beer. So we're going to have a couple of beers that Blaine brought by. And so thank you, first of all, for bringing these over. So the first one we're going to have is a local Las Vegas beer, which I love. So I've had it before, big fan of it. I'll give you a little bit of a description. I know Blaine's kind of a pussy, so...
Yeah. You see the bombs on the top of the can? Like, how appropriate could this possibly be?
Well done.
Cheers, friend.
Yeah, cheers, man. Cheers. All right, so this is this is a locally brewed beer out of Henderson, 5.4% alcohol by volume. It is an IPA, but I'll tell you my first sip and my first thought... because I drink a lot of beer, so I couldn't remember exactly how this one tasted. But it is not mega hoppy. Like, what do you think?
What's supposed to be the difference between an IPA and an APA, I guess?
Well, I'm pretty sure, and don't quote me on this, because I'm on fucking record right now, apparently. But like, I'm pretty sure it's like freedom fries versus French fries. I don't think there's any fucking difference. There's probably like a million people out there who would say, what the fuck are you talking about? You're absolutely wrong. They brew it with different hops or different...
I'm not even going to pretend to know, because I definitely do not.
But do you know the reason it's called an India Pale Ale is because of the ingredients that are used in the beer. And so when these ships like went from, London all the way to, these cities in India, they wanted beer. I mean, fuck, we all want beer. But they had to make sure that it lasted. I think it was like 6 months or something like that. And beer at that time did not last like that long. So if you wanted your beer to actually, you had to have. I think it's the hops. I think the hops were the ones that allowed you to do it. So while some people may not really appreciate that super grassy flavor that you get with an IPA, that's the reason for it, is that it lasts longer. And now basically every bro on the West Coast just loves IPAs. So they don't give a fuck how long it lasts, as long as it tastes mega hoppy. And by the way, I think like IPAs have gotten way too fucking hoppy lately. So I actually really appreciate this Citra Rye by Joseph James. It's not crazy hoppy. Like
It's a little fruity. I think all these guys are gonna have to start going to these more citrusy beers, because you've got all the bros, you just called them, are switching over to, what are those, the White Claws?
Fucking ain't no laws when you're drinking claws, man.
The new Four Loko, is that what they're calling it? Anyway, I don't drink them because I don't drink them, but mark my words, a year, watch how many more fruity flavors are in all these beers because of damn White Claws.
By the way, I got some White Claws in the fridge.
I bet you do.
When we finish this podcast,
moving on.
I'm gonna give you a fucking
Moving on.
All right. So now you know what we're drinking. We're having some Joseph James Citra Rye. If you want to, enjoy along, go pick some up. Probably only if you're local. I don't think it gets distributed very far, but anyway, great beer. Not mega hoppy, just the right amount. You saw something in the news this week that sort of spiked your interest again in something that you were already pretty interested in.
Yeah, and I actually just saw the article today, so there's still a lot of uncertainty about what's going on, but some spike in radiation levels somewhere over Norwegian waters or somewhere between Norway and Russia. I'm not really sure, but the thought is it was some kind of failed test on this, what seems to be a ballistic missile with any range. That's kind of the claim. I don't know if I should say it's the claim, but that's what's at least being thought of by everyone. And so you've got this contained nuclear explosion or potential nuclear explosion within this ballistic missile, and who in the world knows what happens. But tons of speculation right now. Putin hasn't said one way or another. From what I've read up on from his representatives, they won't claim anything, which makes you think there's that much more secrecy, because there are statements said that none of our defensive missiles could stop it. There's anything within the U.S. military could do to stop it, and that's on top of lots of claims that Russia and China, for that matter, too, have vastly superior fighter jets compared to the U.S. Our whole F-35 program, which is a whole nother discussion. It is a pretty badass plane, though.
It's a badass plane, but I mean, modern problems require modern technology, right? So you just said a lot. I mean, but yes. So I heard them talking about it this week. Like, they made the claim that they have nuclear missiles, like missiles that carry nuclear warheads that travel so fast.
That's nothing new, but the big claim here is that it's basically unlimited range. He could go anywhere in the world. But
that was also new, though, that there was no way for us to shoot it down. It's so fast that there's no way for us to shoot it down. Is that right?
I don't know if it's so fast or the navigation systems, the anti-missile systems it has within. I have no idea, and I don't think anybody in the public eye really does just yet.
Like, if you announce something like that, you just gotta wonder, like, is it boasting? Is it reality? Or are we just back in the fucking Cold War again, where we're just making claims? We're just because let's be honest, Donald Trump could say the same shit tomorrow, right? He could say, I have a laser on the moon. Like, let's go back to the Reagan days. I have a laser on the moon that could shoot it down. Or I have a laser on the moon that could burn down Moscow tomorrow. Like, you could say those kinds of things, because today no one knows what's true and what's false anymore.
But so much of the technology's at our fingertips, though. You can get on YouTube right now and look up like multiple people that have built functioning nuclear reactors in their backyard. Led to some.
We just had this conversation, Blaine. Like, I think one of the things that Chernobyl brought to life, at least for me, if you're gonna fucking die from a nuclear bomb, you want to be in that initial blast, because if you're not, but you're in that radius,
it's a long, awful death.
It's fucking awful. Like, you're just burning from the inside out. Like, this radiation is just fucking. It's like, you probably know about this better than I. Like, is it just vibrating your fucking insides, the energy of your insides so rapidly that like you're just dying.
It's not a bad description. You just have like constantly mutating cells.
Okay, we're gonna pause for a second because we need to look for our next beer and make sure that audio is recording okay. Be right back, folks. And we're back. And it damn well is time for another beer. And first of all, I just want to say well done with the peach beer that you got.
I'm curious, man, because I don't know if my country accent's come across. I've kind of lost it over the years, but I grew up in Georgia, the peach state, so I know we were supposed to take local beers, but I didn't even look to see where this one was from. I just saw peach and figured we'd have to give it a try.
Well, so here's the cool thing is this beer is actually not far. It's a Phoenix beer. So it's Four Peaks Peach Golden Ale. And normally I'd give you shit for getting fruit beer, but I did talk about earlier the fact that I do get White Claws. So I guess I don't have much of it.
We're gonna fix that.
Anyway, cheers to this.
Weird.
Interesting. I don't hate it.
I don't love it. We're somewhere in between.
And the yin and the yang have spoken.
Crisp, vibrant, peachy.
Yeah, I love I love some of the shit that they put on the like who.
Established 1996. Like I was already a young kid. Like that's not even an old company.
Yeah, I had my first Four Peaks in 1996. I was 10 years old. I'm just kidding. No. So 4 Peaks.
1996 was the Atlanta Olympics. I overheated watching pole vaulting and had to go to the...
Were you there?
Yeah.
You were actually at the Olympics?
We were watching track and field. I overheated. Mom went with me to the Olympic Stadium emergency room, and I was there for 6 hours.
No shit.
Yeah, it was a bad situation.
Is that right?
But she missed some world records. She probably should have just left me there. I was in good hands.
Wasn't that the one with Michael Johnson?
Yeah.
That was the one where he broke the 200 meter and the 400 meter or something like that.
And every other record there
Basically
was.
the fastest man of all time.
Well,
until Usain Bolt.
That guy.
And now no one gives a fuck about anyone behind him. Yeah. All right, so I would say anyway, let me just say Four Peaks is a great brewery out of Phoenix. I went to school for my undergrad in Flagstaff at Northern Arizona University. And not a lot of people have ever been to Flagstaff or even know about it. But what you should just know is it's about 2 hours away from Phoenix. So we spent a lot of time in Phoenix. And this brewery is actually really cool. And it's just outside of I think it's almost on the ASU campus. Because anytime I would go down there, all the ASU guys would be like, let's go to Four Peaks. Let's go to Four Peaks, bro. And I'd be like, fuck yeah. I was 21. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, let's go to fucking Four Peaks.
Yeah, the inside of your cap says 2. Mine says 10. You reckon that's what machine it is?
Wait, mine said 10?
Mine's 10, yours is 2, so I wonder if that's the capping machine that it went through for traceability.
I think it's basically saying golf scoring, I am a 2 and you're a 10. So I am way better than you is basically what it's saying. If you're okay with that. Based
on the 6 years I spent working in a factory, you're probably right.
Absolutely not. No, like the couple of years we worked together, how many times you probably fucking put me in my place in meetings without me even knowing? It was well worth it.
So
Yeah, it was so. I wouldn't even have known. I'd be like, yeah, Blaine, you're right. And everyone else in the room's like, yeah, Stu, you're a dipshit. Blaine just basically said you were fucking wrong.
they all knew.
Yeah, they all knew. That's all right. We're here now. We're fine.
And I don't work there anymore. So
And now
say what I want.
we can pretend like it doesn't even matter. No, actually, it worked pretty well, the dynamic, I think, because there was always this tension. I think there was always a bit of a tension between like factory and like the business side. And so like having the two of us working together pretty closely and being friends, I think it helped.
It's good that we were friends. Otherwise, I would have probably like never cooperated.
You would have hated me if we weren't friends.
Yeah.
Because I was the guy who was like, what if we did this? And from the factory side, you're like, what if you shut the fuck up?
Yeah. By the way, we're talking about a chocolate factory, a chocolate business.
Yes. We'll get to that eventually. Blaine is not going to be like a one-time guest. I'm pretty sure he's going to be like here relatively often. Basically, every time Blaine comes over to drink, I think I'm just going to force him to do a podcast.
Fair enough. I'm gonna be hanging out, sleeping on the couch, and watching cartoons with Jackson in the morning anyway.
Which the only thing that's changing in this whole scenario is now we're just doing a podcast with it, because that happened all the time anyway.
I'm ready for Jackson to get like another year under his belt, because then we can have the Nerf gun podcast.
Yeah, well,
Amanda's not gonna like me quite as much at that point, but
Amanda already is kind of mad at you anyway.
I'm gonna stack that kid up with some Nerf guns.
Amanda's already frustrated with you, but all right, we bullshitted enough. This beer, Four Peaks, you've done better. We've seen better from you. I'm not gonna put this up there.
But the fruit revolution I mentioned earlier, we'll revisit this in a year.
Yeah. What is this? The percentage here? Do you see an ABV? I mean, if it's like 9%, it's like shit. Okay.
Yeah, it's not. It's 4.5.
No, fuck yeah, no. All right, Four Peaks, meh. Maybe for chicks. Chicks might like this.
Moving on.
All right, so back to the fucking topic. This is the, by the way, this is the intention of this podcast. I want us to get fucking diverted and drink, and then sort of slowly come back to like, holy shit, what are the things that are going to kill us soon? Because that's basically what life is, to be fair. All we are is sitting here thinking like, I'm going to live maybe another year, maybe another 10 years, maybe another 50 years. I don't know. But I'm going to divert it.
Your life, though.
I'm going to divert it.
Don't assume you're going to get a full pool.
No.
Life is a lot better that way.
Do you know, like, what was the average age, the life expectancy back in, like, the medieval era? And I think this is what people get wrong. The average age of people in the medieval era was, like, 23 years old.
Damn. So,
like, people think that, like, you were 30 and, like, okay, you're getting up there in age, buddy. But no, so this is what I learned recently.
Is it a high mortality rate?
It's a high fucking mortality rate.
Infants?
That's exactly right. So people still lived to be 60, 70, 80 years old. I mean, it was less frequent than what we have today. But, like, everyone thinks, like, oh, no, everyone just died early. No. People still lived to be, like, pretty old. But there was just a really good chance you were going to die at birth or, like, when you were 3 years old from some crazy fucking weird virus. Most likely just the flu. You were just going to die from the flu.
What's crazy, though, is there's quite a few countries around the planet where the life expectancy is still under 40. And again, it goes back to that infant mortality rate.
Is it just the infant mortality rate?
More than anything else, but like
that's where mean and median come in, right? Like, so what's the median?
I have no idea. But what's also interesting is looking at the age of the mother at the time of her firstborn, and looking how young that is. So like these countries with an average age of, or average life expectancy of 35, 40 years, these women are having their first child at 16, 17, 18 years old on average. It's wild.
Yeah.
But it's all in preparation for one, if not multiple, children dying.
Jesus
Awful.
Christ. Good Lord. It's, you know, it's a whole other fucking path. We got to talk about nuclear proliferation.
Yeah. Or some tangent.
However you can fucking pronounce it. Yeah.
So like classical, that seems weird to say. Classical nuclear proliferation was like the nuclear technology expanding into all these other powers that weren't like the initial powerhouses that created it. Mm-hmm. You know, like Russia, I guess I should say Germany. Who was it? Wernher von Braun, the crazy like.
Well, that was the guy who became the fucking head of NASA. Of
America.
America. Yes.
And that was post-World War II?
That whole paperclip project or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Where no one likes to talk about it, but we stole a bunch of Nazis, and that's what basically built our fucking our NASA program.
Yeah, that's but nuclear proliferation in its classical like definition more or less started coming to an end after like the Cold War and like all these post World War II, post Cold War. I don't know, modern day, like all these global treaties, is that the right term?
I think everyone came to terms, like all the major nuclear powers said that they were going to reduce their nuclear stockpile. I think that was sort of the expectation.
Yeah, because we basically realized like we have tens of thousands of these around the globe, most of them situated within the U.S.
and Russia. It's those two.
We had by far more.
Sure. Yes.
It was just some god awful number.
However, I think that all of the studies said that, like they probably had the bigger ones.
I don't know.
I don't know that, and I don't know if it matters. Like honestly, like if it's 10% bigger, it doesn't fucking matter. We're all dead.
Doesn't matter. 2 of them, and the plane is done.
Right. It doesn't fucking matter. By the way, have you ever heard of like cold hand?
No.
Okay, so like this was one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard. This was something that I have no idea whether or not it's true. I've seen a lot of internet articles about it, but it's basically, I think it's called cold hand or dead hand in Russia, where like during the Cold War, Russia basically built an automated response. So if Moscow or any of their major military outposts within Russia or Siberia ever went down, it would trigger like something like 30 nuclear warheads sent to America and to America's allies.
Whoa.
So basically like...
Was this a Cold War thing?
It was a Cold War thing. It was a fucking... So if some, terrorist from the Middle East or Africa or Europe wanted to basically just say, fuck the world, they could literally, if they found a way to like blast one of these spots, they could do it. And the craziest part is, from what I understand, the fall of the Soviet Union happened so fast that they don't know that they have actually turned off cold hand or dead hand or whatever it's called, fully.
Well, that's terrifying.
So, like, if anything ever happened, it would just trigger, like, these fucking nuclear warheads being sent all around the world, and we would just all be dead. Like, 30 warheads, Earth is done. Earth is just done.
It don't take that many. Like,
right.
I mean, 2 of them, they're going to kill, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, depending on where they hit in that immediate blast radius. But then, as soon as all that radioactive isotopes get up into the atmosphere, we're all done. Like it's not gonna. They're so powerful now compared to what they were 50 years ago.
Much like marijuana. From what I hear, anyway.
Yes.
I'm not a connoisseur. I would like to be. I would very much like to be a connoisseur of marijuana.
Well, we'll see if. It's legal in the state. I give it 5 years. 5 years will be federally legal.
I'm hoping. Nevada passed a law about like employers cannot restrict their employees from smoking pot because it's legal in the state. But it's like, because a lot of employers apparently were saying like, no, you can't do it, even though it's legal here, we can still fire you. So the state of Nevada actually took steps to say like, no, we legalized it here. You cannot fire people for this.
Interesting.
So apparently, as of January 1st, 2020, unless you work in a job that has like physical implications, where being high would significantly impair your job or something like that, you cannot restrict your employees from smoking pot. I don't know who that impacts. What if your employer is national or international? Is that okay?
I don't know. I heard from a friend of mine that works with Caesars Entertainment that they became the first company to...
Instantly. I think that friend of yours is my wife. She said it immediately. She's like, they just sent out a notice and they were like, yep, you're good. Go ahead and do it if you want. You ain't getting fired here. But that's so progressive. I fucking love that. I used to work for Caesars. It was always a great company. I love the fact that their first thing was like, yes, the state legalized it. We thought, look, if the people of Nevada want you to be able to do this, then go ahead and do it. It is not the worst drug. We're sitting here drinking beer, and I am the number one proponent in the world for beer, but I am like 90% certain that marijuana is healthier than beer.
By far.
I mean, it's just...
We talked about Penny earlier, so of course she's not smoking weed, but CBD. Penny's been taking CBD for a while now, and it is absolutely incredible the impact it's had on her. Like the most high anxiety dog you've ever met, even when she came out of her shell as much as she did, she is a whole different beast. Just giving her a small dose of CBD every day. It absolutely blew my mind.
I've heard that from so many people about CBD. Like it's incredible. Like it's like a godsend. But the fact that it hasn't been tested by the FDA, the fact that it hasn't been like approved by the government, is it pot? Is it right? Got to have some hands in the pot, right?
Yep. And as soon as they figure out how to make a little bit more, as soon as they can make a little bit more money on it, as soon as Big Pharma can capitalize on it, like they are marijuana right now.
Sure.
Watch what happens.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, man. And we've wandered away from
yet again
from nuclear proliferation.
Well, all right. So we just talked about like the positive aspects of all these other things. Why don't we shift to like the positive parts of nuclear? Let's just say nuclear technology.
Okay, so let's talk about one thing, just as a preface.
Okay.
What the fuck? Why can't people say nuclear right? When someone says nuclear, what does that mean?
What?
People say nuclear versus nuclear.
I say nuclear.
I know. Nuclear is the right way to say it.
I grew up in Georgia where we know how to say our words right.
Well, debatable. But, but why do some people say like a nuclear bomb? What the fuck is a nuclear bomb?
I think they're... So how does it work? Is that what you're asking?
Well, is there... First of all, is nuclear even a thing?
All right, so you're talking about massive releases of energy. So like nuclear fusion, like that's what we're on the brink of accomplishing, right? So nuclear fusion, it's basically how the sun is powered. You have like this immensely efficient power source that's damn near like self-sustaining. So just so people can kind of understand this, because this is something that I think I've kind of recently understood better than ever before. So nuclear fusion, which is what the sun does with helium, right? Is it a bunch of helium atoms? Hydrogen, some of those light elements. I'm not really sure.
Basically, the energy and the heat which creates the energy is just so high that these atoms are slamming together. They're slamming together so hard that they're literally creating new material, which creates a new energy of its own, which creates almost this, to your point, this sustainable energy source, which is the sun.
Yeah, so you have like these lighter atomic nuclei slamming together to combine a heavier atomic nuclei. And the output of that is vast amounts of energy. So I can't remember what the number is. It's something like one like 1 pound or 1 kilogram of nuclear fusion material is equivalent to like 10 million pounds of fossil fuels. Like that's like the orders of magnitudes of efficiency are like, it's pretty unbelievable. So like if you extrapolate that a little bit and think about how small the amount of nuclear fusion it would take to support an entire country rather than fossil fuels. And I think it's Germany's like, so sometime last year, they were the ones like, they created a, God, what's the term for it? I don't know, but basically like a 25-second, God, I don't know the term, 25-second like cycle process, whatever, of it happening, like nuclear fusion happening, but like how to get it to go ongoing still, it's not quite within our grasp, but it's damn close. And it's really just going to come down, I think, like France, for instance, they've been over 80% nuclear power for decades. Jesus. And like most of the world doesn't know that. We in the U.S. we've got a ton of nuclear reactors, but it's such a small percentage, and we've got some percentage of wind power and hydro turbines. Like we've got renewable energy resources, but like nuclear fusion, that's it, because it takes almost nothing to power everything, and it's pretty close within our grasp. The scary part, though, is if something goes wrong, it's a wrap.
Right. That's because so fusion is essentially happening with the Large Hadron Collider, right? That's kind of what it's doing, right? Like
CERN in Switzerland?
Yeah, well, and that's part of it. Like CERN's the one defending the Large Hadron Collider, which is sending basically particles around this gigantic cylinder at speeds that are, I think, within like 90% of the speed of light or something like that.
Even faster.
Like pretty damn close to the true speed of light.
It's spinning electrons, and it's like 20-something mile circumference around that thing. It's all underground. It's an insane piece of technology.
And do you know that like they had approved, like I think American Congress had approved something similar in Dallas that was going to be even bigger than the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, and it was going to be able to get within like 99.9% of the speed of light. So it was going to, but then people started getting concerned because a lot of people were talking about there is an issue with the Large Hadron Collider. They think that it could be creating these microscopic black holes.
It's not that they think it can.
Right.
Like even though it's a single like electrons colliding with another electron, like I don't know what the hell the conditions are, but it can create a black hole. And actually, like I've met somebody that works on some team within NASA, and I don't know if it's Cape Canaveral or elsewhere, but works on the team that is working on developing artificial, or not artificial, but man-made black holes. I don't know why in the hell she's doing it, but that's all she could say. She said like she wasn't allowed to say.
Why are we doing that, man?
I don't know. There's got to be some like badass reason for it. Maybe so we can travel back in time a little while to say don't do all the things we've done, But she couldn't tell me any of the detail. This is a conversation I had like, I think I was in high school, so this is probably somewhere between like maybe 12 years ago.
Jesus.
And
now she probably could tell you even less.
Yeah. I wish I could just like happen to run
Jesus.
it. Actually, this is my cousin's wife's cousin. She was a stranger to me, but like there's a path to get back to her. I might have to go knock on her door again.
Good Lord. Man-made black holes has an entire division. That, like, I get that. I get that there is a need to study it, but the desire to create it, and I don't know if that's what they're doing. I know the LHC is like there was an article that came out in I think the Scientific American or some scientific journal that talked about like the LHC is essentially a black hole factory, and that's all they're like. They said, I mean, it's a crazy number. They said something like for every minute that the LHC is running, it is creating like 1,000 black holes, and it's basically been running nonstop since like 1996 or something like that.
Jesus.
So like, and so there's, and this is where like I need you to keep me in check a little bit, but the theory, the reason CERN thinks that it's fine is because for microscopic black holes, they'll burn themselves out essentially because of Hawking radiation.
Yep.
Because the theory is that it will give away enough energy that it will just dissipate. But if it ever didn't, if it ever gained enough energy for some reason, if it ever gained enough mass, then it wouldn't go away. And then we'd be fucked.
But like what's that critical threshold? Like
What's
how
the
much
threshold?
mass to where it
Right.
won't dissipate virtually instantly?
And no one apparently has still proven that Hawking radiation is real.
I thought that got proved right after he died.
Maybe. Look, I am not the
I think
expert.
it was like gravitational waves were actually observed somehow, and I don't know. I may be wrong, but
I have no idea. I think the story that I read may have been dated. It could have been dated, but they said that Hawking radiation still hasn't been entirely proven, and so the idea that these black holes are just going to dissipate every time is still not it's still kind of theoretical. So there's another thing too, but you know what? We'll save that for another time. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with a third beer, just to close this out, because Blaine and I are going to have a third beer anyway. So we'll be right back. All right, so just so you guys know, we're literally sitting in my garage in the middle of August in Las Vegas. It's probably
it's gotta be
still
over 100 degrees in here.
It's probably like it feels a little bit like a sauna.
It's
like
dry heat.
It's what everyone says. I mean, you're from Georgia. You know humid.
I'll take 105 in Vegas over 80 in Georgia any given day of the year.
It ain't bad. It ain't bad. But we're also sitting in here surrounded by dogs. Blaine's dog being like this badass pit bull that he already told you a little bit about. And then I've got like my little chihuahua. But the funny thing is, they get along really well. It's awesome.
They love each other.
It's awesome. They've known each other as long as we've known each other. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I think she came over that very first day I went to your house, didn't she?
Yeah, you also brought a snake over that day, I think.
Oh yeah, that's when I had picked up Earl.
Jesus Christ. And snakes and spiders, man, that's like no bueno. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Earl was about 9 feet, 40 pounds. He was a big old boy, so he had every reason to be a little scared.
Not down for that. Not my thing. But that's okay. All right, so we're heading into the home stretch. We've talked about nuclear proliferation. Jesus Christ! See, this is what happens when you have a beer show with a science show. You're
trying to move on before you have open another beer, though.
Well, right. So I just want to lay the groundwork before we crank back our third beer. So we've covered a little bit of ground on nuclear proliferation. We've talked a little bit about some of the shit that happened in the 80s and some of the shit that's happened recently. Fucking 4 people have died, apparently, recently, which is just fucking terrifying because I think a lot of people are like, God, I thought we were past this.
Yeah, what's next?
We're not fucking past this. Nuclear tensions are just rising again. And,
you know I was in after all that, all those North Korea scares, like right around election time.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That Hawaii thing?
Yeah, that was scary.
Jesus.
Dude, I was in South Korea the day of the meeting, of that first meeting. And it was crazy because there's just like swarms of people around every TV. Were
they happy? Like, were the South?
I think, I don't know, but like if they were feeling like I felt, I was sitting there watching TV being like, is this all just a ploy? Like, is North Korea about to come over the border and I'm just wrong place, wrong time, and who the hell knows what happened after that?
Just to provide context from what we're talking about, this was the day that North Korea and South Korea finally spoke again on like political terms, right? This is what we're talking about. And you happen to be abroad in that place. Was it in Seoul or where? Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, I was downtown.
And you were there, and you happened to be.
I was only there for a day. It happened to be that day.
And so, yeah, I mean, the whole world, I think, was watching. I mean, they hadn't spoken since when? Like, I mean, the 50s, 60s?
I don't know, man. Crazy.
Jeez. Well, you're alive. You made it.
Yeah. So did everybody else.
So did everybody
victory.
else. All right, so we've talked about nuclear proliferation. We're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna get to the finish here. Blaine and I are just gonna talk about a couple more things, but we're gonna finish this off with one more beer. We're cranking back 3 bitches. So
we're looking super girly with this one, though.
well, it's an attractive woman at least. So this is another local brewery. It's actually a relatively recent one that opened called Lovelady down on Water Street in Henderson. So if you're a Vegas local or a Henderson local, you're probably familiar. It's called Lovelady. This place is pretty cool. This little street down in the middle of Henderson. It's this place that you know is going to be cool soon, but like it's not quite there yet. So they're working on it. Like, you know, when you think of Main Street America, you think about these cars like diagonally parked in these parking spaces, and you walk from place to place, and you go and you get a burger, and then you grab a beer, and you just have a blast in this like one little drag that you can walk from place to place. That's what Water Street is, and fucking Lovelady just opened up there a couple of years ago and really started to bring life back to this spot. Because before, it was kind of a lot of shitty little businesses that weren't really like things that you wanted to walk around to. So excited to see, because I think Henderson's going the right way. Anyway, so Lovelady, one of their better beers, and I'm gonna say I fucking hate sours. I fucking hate sours. But this was one of the first sours that I ever had that I was like, yeah, it's not bad.
I'm kind of curious. I've never ordered a sour. I've tasted them, but no, I can count on one hand how many times I've tasted them. So I'm curious about this one.
I think like 99 out of 100 times they're awful. Prove me wrong, America, please. Like, let me know. But like, this is the 100. All right, so we're gonna crack it. It's called Ninth Island Pineapple Sour. It's pineapple. Cheers, man. Number 3.
Do you open your tab all the way?
I do. I try to.
See, I barely open mine, because then you always know which one's yours. It's like everybody always opens it all the way, but I can always recognize mine in a bottle.
You know, so another way, like, do you ever do this? Like,
yeah, but so does everybody else.
Yeah, but not everybody does.
That's pretty normal.
It helps the flow.
Nobody does that.
All right. So you like barely crack it, but then your drinking experience is awful.
Well, who finished their last beer first?
Doesn't mean you enjoyed it. Oh, sip number 1. Oh. All right. What's your face? What's your face saying?
I puckered up a little bit. I've never liked sours.
And
I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Cause you know what? Like, I grew up and growing up in the South, right? I never liked whiskey or any dark liquors for that matter.
What did you drink?
Vodka, but it was only because like the people around me drank it. Now,
like
I wasn't much of a drinker.
Yeah.
Like even in college, not much of a drinker, and just didn't really care to. So I just had what everybody around me did. And then fast forward several years later, what am I, like 23, 24, something like that. And I remember sitting in a bar in New Jersey, and somebody says, "How did you grow up in the South and you don't drink whiskey?" It's like, you know what? You're right.
Mm.
You
were shamed. You were shamed into drinking whiskey.
And I want to thank him for doing that. But maybe that's what I need for these sours.
Do you like whiskey, bourbon, or scotch?
Scotch.
No shit.
No,
really?
Scotch on the rocks. Well, if it's something nice, no, not on the rocks. We're not going to dilute it and pollute it. But if it's just a mediocre one, then yeah, on the rocks.
Okay.
I got my one glass I drink it out of. Always the same one.
What's special about that glass?
It's not glass, it's plastic, and I found it on a riverbank next to the Colorado River a few years ago.
Okay, so I feel like there's a story.
There really is.
You better just tell the damn story now.
There's not much of a story. It's like there's some hot springs that I've frequented quite a few times, and you walk a few minutes down from the hot springs and you can jump the Colorado River because it's only like 55, 60 degrees that time of year. And I walked up, I was like, look at that green cup. That's kind of cool. So I put it in my pocket, and That's my drinking cup now.
A green plastic cup.
Can't break it. It's made by Coleman.
Does it look good?
No.
And Coleman, you're welcome for the advertising. Does it look good? Nope.
We ain't worried about that. It blends in.
But it does the job.
Blends in, does the job. And I was probably the only person that would have picked it up anyway. Yeah, I've been drinking out of that probably 2-3 years now.
I bet there was a dude who was like down the beach, like just kicking it on like a tube. And he's like, he came back half hour later. Where's my fucking Coleman cup?
It's living a great life.
At least he can know that. I hope he knows that now.
But yeah, sours. Maybe I need to be shamed into them.
No, you don't. Trust me. Again,
oh God, thank you.
99 out of 100 are awful. This one, I'll give it to Lovelady, and actually, Lovelady makes a lot of other beers that I'm a huge fan of. By the way, they've got a New England style. It changed my boss's mind. My boss and I used to get in fucking arguments about beer.
He drinks the shittiest beer.
That's what because okay, so again, Blaine and I used to work together. He knows who I'm talking about. He like. Not to throw fucking Michelob Ultra under the bus, but that was like his beer. Like that was his beer. Like that's the good beer.
Yeah, you walk into like this beautiful house, and he's got this really cool kegerator that there's no way he built that. He bought that.
Oh yeah.
But this cool kegerator sitting there, and I was like, oh cool. What kind of interesting beer do we have in here? He's like, oh, there's Michelob Ultra. I was like, I'm gonna run to the store real quick.
Yeah, we're all gonna lose weight tonight. That's great. But so Lovelady literally turned him on to IPAs through the New England style. So fucking good for you, Lovelady. You taught him that IPAs can be fantastic. Well done. The pineapple sour, if I was grading against other sours, I'd give you a fucking A+. This is like one of the best sours I've ever had. In general, as someone who is not probably much of a sour fan, meh.
But now that I'm half a can in, it's growing on me.
You drink 3 of them, you'll love them.
Not gonna do that.
All right, so let's wrap this up about nuclear proliferation. So I don't fucking mispronounce it again. God, that's a tough word. That's a lot of syllables. That's a lot of syllables. It's a lot of like hard syllables. Like, yeah. Anyway, so a lot of negatives. What we didn't talk about is a lot of the positives. I know you were trying to get into that when I started fucking talking about fusion, fission, and all that shit. So there's some good things.
Plenty.
What is your vision in the way that nuclear power and nuclear basically mechanisms can work in the future for good or for bad? Like what should we do and what's probably going to happen?
So should I answer that like with the blinders on, looking at nuclear technology, or should I say what should happen?
Well, I want you to do both. What I want you to say is what should we do? Like what should we do with nuclear power? But I also want you to say, like, based on the trajectory of what you're seeing, what's going to happen with nuclear power? So that's 2 different questions. Nuclear
power, just traditional nuclear reactors, have been and will continue to grow. Like they're fueling more and more of our energy needs all around the globe, and that's going to continue. I feel pretty confident saying that.
I think when we took a pause, you were talking. I don't remember if we were recording at this point, but you said like France runs on like 80% nuclear power.
Yeah, and that was true like at the turn of the millennium. That's
insane.
Yeah, they've been predominantly nuclear power.
It's incredible.
I think they're still the world leader. I might be wrong at this point, but they've been hardcore on it for a long time.
Yeah. So you've got that. I mean, and so there's clearly benefits, right? Like this whole idea of like fucking clean coal and like shit like that. It's like,
it's not.
Relax. Stop. We want to keep people jobs, but there's plenty of jobs in the clean energy market. We just need to find a way to fucking transition some shit, right?
Yeah, and there is inherent risk. We know that, but
sure.
That's part of our reality now. As technology continues to evolve, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about cars or smart homes or whatever else, there's an inherent risk in everything we are going to pursue.
Oh, we'll cover AI in future episodes, trust me.
I know AI is coming, but like, so we as a people got to decide, like, what level of risk are we willing to take on?
Sure. And that's absolutely true. And so one of my favorite quotes from Neil deGrasse Tyson goes back to like when a lot of people say like, well, why are we exploring the stars? Why are we exploring AI? Why are we exploring all these technologies when we have all of these people on the streets? When we have all these homeless people? When we have all these problems that we need to solve domestically? Don't worry about Mars. We gotta solve the United States, and that's a fair provocation. There's a lot of things that we need to work on. By the way, like I don't know if you heard this whole thing about like the city of Oakland passed these new city ordinances where you can't use gender-specific terminology for these standard, I don't even know what to call them, but these things. So the worst example, right? You know what a manhole is?
Oh, no.
Like a fucking sewer cover, right?
They're going to change the name of that?
You can't call it a manhole anymore.
Christ.
In Oakland.
If Oakland wasn't horrible enough already, it just got that much worse.
And there were like, I think there were like 40 or 50 words that they identified, like manpower. You can't say manpower. It's got to be workforce now. Some of them are like, all right, whatever, fine. I get it.
So what, they're like, not only do we have like a zillion gang murders per day, now we're going to make you hate us that much more for a different reason?
Look, I'm not going to speak for you. I know you feel this way too. Like there is plenty of legitimacy to like gender, equality. We need to find a way to allow gender equality. Like there are a lot of things. There's a lot of things. I could tell you a long story that my wife had to deal with recently, but I'm not going to get into that. But what we don't need to fucking focus on, we all have a limited amount of time and resources to focus on problems. Manhole is not a good word. It's not like women are sitting there thinking like, fuck, I'm missing out on the word manhole. I wish I could be associated with the word manhole. That's not helpful for the fucking female gender. Like, yeah, if we were sitting there, like if the word currency had the word man in it, like, okay, maybe we should find a way to get the word man out of currency because that's like money that moves things around. This is the fucking blocker.
How bored is that senator to be pursuing this shit?
And I gotta give props to Mario Lopez. By the way, Saved by the Bell, one of my favorite shows of all time.
Never seen it.
Get the fuck out of here.
Never seen it.
I don't think you're allowed back in this house. I'm gonna make you like fucking stream it.
Star
it's
Wars,
gotta be
Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones. I ain't seen none of it.
Are you
I grew
human?
I grew up outside on a
Are
farm.
you a human? Jesus Christ.
You want to learn how to catch salamanders and crawdads?
I didn't want to get mad at you at the end of this, Joe. Like I didn't. Anyway,
Still time.
We'll go past this. All right, we'll move on and we'll deal with this later. Mario Lopez, I think he, as soon as he saw some of this stuff, it's AC Slater in Saved by the Bell, by the way. But he tweeted like, "Hey, maybe you should solve your homeless problem first and then deal with this terminology later." And it's like, I mean,
He got all kinds of shit for that too, right?
oh, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he got shit for it. I mean, but God, like, again, I'm all for gender equality. I think there's a lot of work we got to do, but I don't think changing the terminology of manhole is the first thing we need to tackle. I think there's plenty of other things we could look at before we get to that one. So, fuck, I don't even remember what we were talking about before that.
We have to figure out, like, what's the answer? What's the future?
Yeah.
Can the conspiracy theorist part of me come out for this answer?
I would love for the conspiracy theorist and you to talk.
The older I get, the more I love conspiracy theory.
I'm excited to hear it because I don't think you tell me a lot of your conspiracy theories.
Most of them aren't theories. Like it's a damn fact. But you know, if we rewind to Nikola Tesla,
Sure.
probably one of the smartest people in human history, killed by our government.
Was he?
Oh yeah. And then like once they killed him, they stole all his shit out
How
of the
old was
safe in
he?
the hotel. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But
was he like an old man though? Or was he like
prime of his life. Like
he was still cranking shit out.
Jesus.
Like he had figured out like self-sustaining energy, like drawing from the earth. Which this goes back to the theory of why the Egyptian pyramids were built, right? It was a power plant. And what Nikola Tesla was working on was very synonymous with what a lot of people think the pyramids are for. But, go do your own research.
But you can't just leave people hanging. You got to give them at least a 15-second soundbite on like what are you talking about? What's the power plant?
I don't really get it, but it's basically drawing energy from the earth, and it's a self-sustaining power plant. So you're creating there's no negative output of it. You're creating energy. But like to believe in that, you also have to believe that the Egyptian pyramids are more than a few thousand years old, because you go talk to any archaeologist, you look at the wear down in the rock that on like the Sphinx, for instance, and everyone are going to suggest that is 20,000 years old, not just a few thousand years old. So that gets into this whole other like theory on human existence and how our technology evolved and then devolved, maybe what we're on our way to wiping ourselves out a second time.
Well, that's what this whole podcast is about. More like, look.
But all I'm getting at is, you look at Tesla, you look at, I think it was 1944, the Japanese came out with an electric car that could get over 300 miles a gallon. There's the guy somewhere.
Is that why we nuked him?
Fuck, man. That's a sensitive subject.
Jesus.
Anyway, I'll tell you about my story when I visited Hiroshima one of these days. There was some guy that created like the water powered vehicle. There were the MIT students that created. They did like a $2,000 modification on a Prius, and then like multiple factor increase in total mileage it could get. Like there's all these technologies that quote unquote are suppressed by our government because it helps keep the fossil fuel businesses in, which is that's what fuels the wars, which creates all this money, which creates all these tensions in economics and whatever else. But it's all these suppressed technologies that there's way too much evidence of.
Jesus.
And secret societies, whether you call it a society or a government, they go back. You can find record of that in the earliest recorded parts of human civilization. So why in the hell wouldn't it exist now?
Yeah.
But there's just the conspiracy theorist part of me. So who knows? I could be just blowing smoke up your ass. But
no,
my personal belief, we let all these technologies that actually exist come to life. We replaced the Department of Defense with companies like Blue Origin and SpaceX, and we replace everything that's run by the government with either private or public enterprise, something not run by the government, and watch how the evolution just explodes.
But I mean, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think that there is a very good chance that government suppression has happened. I think there's a very good chance that we are stuck in a loop based on people trying to change, like create economies for themselves. But what I would disagree with you on is if you're talking about giving all of the power then to SpaceX, well, the same thing is going to happen again.
I'm not saying give them the power. I'm saying let a capitalist economy go for it.
Democratize the power. That I would agree with.
Yes.
That I would absolutely agree with. I think as soon as you leave the power in the hands of one person or one department or one agency or and that's what you expect to run everything, that's when you run into problems.
Yeah, but we already have proof in, like, it takes NASA, $2 billion to put something in space versus SpaceX can do it for $30 million.
But this is where you and I had an argument, I think, 2 weeks ago, where like the SpaceX has levied the technology of NASA. I'm not saying SpaceX couldn't have figured a lot of this shit out on their own, but like but the idea that NASA hasn't served a purpose along the way. So like now, NASA is full of bureaucracy and red tape, and they probably pay $20 for a part that should actually cost them $2. And there's a lot of fucking contracts in place that are just awful. But it doesn't mean that they didn't serve a purpose. And here's why, is because NASA does not have an ROI requirement.
Yeah.
And you need that.
Blockbuster served a purpose, and Sears served a purpose.
Well, but those are stores that were meant to drive revenue. NASA was never required to drive revenue.
Yeah, but they didn't evolve properly. They didn't evolve in the way they needed to fulfill the needs they needed to fulfill.
Absolutely.
That's why I bring it up.
Fair. So your point then is that NASA has not evolved with the requirements of the new technology that's available.
Yeah, because they didn't have the ROIs, the KPIs that any other business has to be mindful of. They just got to cruise along.
Right. Okay. All right. I liked Blaine's corner of conspiracy theory. That actually might be my favorite part of the show. I might have to call you, like, even if you're not here, just to get like a 5-minute conspiracy theory.
I will make enemies with some of my personal beliefs on what has and hasn't happened. I'm happy to share them.
All right, but we got to wrap this up because we're coming up on an hour and 15. I was planning on this being like 30 to an hour. Okay, so nuclear proliferation. Jesus Christ. Nuclear proliferation. All right, here we are.
MP.
So, problems are countries and organizations that don't understand the requirements and don't understand the power. And I shouldn't even say, well, I guess the evaluation stands true, but I think a lot of people sometimes think like, oh, the U.S., well, we're reliable and trustworthy when it comes to nuclear weapons. But I have no doubt that we have some of the same shit in place that we talked about earlier with the cold hand or dead hand with Russia. I'm sure we do. And you know what? It's a shame. Look, I'm not in favor of just letting the United States fall, but should we just wipe the rest of the world off the face of the earth if we ever did? Is that fair?
Hell no.
I mean, that's, again, we need defensive protocols in place, but like that's not. It's like there was this economic study done where it was like, what was it? It was like there was $10 on the table. They did this like study between research subjects, and they had $10 on the table, and they had two people, like the way that we're sitting across the table from each other, just two people, and they had 10 $1 bills, and they said, you guys need to divide this up between yourselves, and you need to agree upon it. If you don't agree, no one gets anything. But if you do agree, then you'll get whatever you guys agree upon. And so anytime anyone was more greedy and they said, I want $9 and you get $1, then obviously the person who was getting the $1 said, I disagree, I don't want this. But the economic model, the weird thing was, they were like, here's the weird thing. Now you're talking about justice and fairness, not just pure economics, because you walked into this study and you had $0. So regardless, you're walking away with $1. But you're mad because now you're not getting $4 extra. So you're mad at this person. So now you're saying no one's getting anything. Rather than you could still walk away with $1, but now you're saying you're mad about the justice and you're saying no one's getting any dollars. And that happened like 90% of the time. Anytime someone else wanted a different amount. And I think they planted people in those, because I think most people would just say like, yeah, 5 and 5, cool, right on. But I think they planted people in there to say like, I want 9. And you can have 1.
And if you use that as an analogy of like first world countries versus third world, a big part of me believes ultimately. I'm tempted to say that the world's not going to outlive me. And whether...
You might be right, man.
If you look at all these powerhouses around the planet, they're going to... Somebody's inevitably going to attempt to destroy the other. But what's left is all these third world countries. And they're the ones that have been on losing end of the stick on a lot of economic deals throughout human history. They're the ones that were going to just take the $1 and that would be that.
Yeah.
But after all these first world countries destroy one another, they're the ones that know how to farm. They're the ones that know how to hunt. They're the ones that know how to live off the land.
Mm-hmm.
And the evolution starts over.
It starts probably with the people who know functionally how to do things that actually make them survive.
Yeah.
It's very true. I mean, it's very true. I think we got to close this out.
Yeah, I'm about out of beer.
Yeah, we're gonna go get probably more beer. You guys don't get to join us for that one. But Blaine, thank you for joining me on our first ever podcast. This may not actually be the first one to air because it may be like I think the sound quality might suck, so we may like air this like number 5 and be like, yeah, remember when we were like at our grassroots?
Still practicing.
Yeah.
Before we were on the 50th floor.
Yeah, before we were like fucking just the big shots. The big shots in the podcast world, which I'm sure will be very soon.
Maybe.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming. And folks, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Oh, here I am. Thanks for having me, Stu. You stroked my ego a little too strong there, I think. So hopefully
Stroke a lot of things too strong.
Yeah, well, we know that.